Welcome to a lesson on fractions, percentages and decimals with Barley's friend Bertie. He's usually found reading books, but today he's going to show you something about percentages to start with.
How many treats will you eat out of 6? We've got 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of them.
So not surprisingly, Bertie ate all his treats, 6 out of 6. So hopefully you know that one, that's 100%. As a fraction, that's 1 whole 1, and as a decimal, that's also 1. Before we do more fractions, Bertie's going to share some of his toys with you, which you'll need to know about in order to do the work later. Okay, you've got 10 seconds to look at Bertie's toys and see how many you can remember. There's Rudolph, sausages, a ball, frisbee, dumbbell, duck 1, duck 2 and a fox. Now write down all the toys you remember or share them with your homeschooler. How many can you get? I suggest you pause the video here. You might want to go back and look at those toys again. You'll need to know as much as you can about each toy for the work we're going to do now. How many toys are animals? It's 1 duck, a fox, another duck, and the reindeer. So that's 4. Out of a total of how many?
So we have 8 toys for Bertie. Aren't we, Bertie? 8 toys.
So that's 4 animals out of a total of 8 toys. That's 4/8 of Bertie's toys are animals. Now let's simplify this fraction. What's the smallest number that goes into 4 and 8? That's 4. So divide the top and bottom by 4. Top 4 divided by 4 is 1, 8 divided by 4 is 2. So half of Bertie's toys are animals. You can see that clearly in the picture. Half of the toys are ringed in white. The other half are now being ringed in bright green. So now we have 2 groups, the white group and the bright green group. So your half, represented by 1/2, is the 1 being the animals over 2 groups, the animals and all the other toys. So how do we represent this as a percentage? Well, you probably know that half is 50%. So that's just something you may know. Or think of it as half of 100%, half of 100 being 50. And to get the decimal, divide the percentage by 100 to get 0.5. The 5 being in the tenths column, that is 5/10. We'll be looking at this in more detail later on. How many of the toys are ducks? So that's 2 out of a total of 8 toys. Simplify that fraction as you did on the previous line. What's the highest number that goes into 2 and 8 being 2? Divide them by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 8 divided by 2 is 4. And the percentage, well, a half to a quarter, you've divided by 2. So to divide your percentage by 2, 50 divided by 2, 25%. And to get the decimal, divide by 100. 25 divided by 100 is 0.25. If you need to practice dividing by 100, why don't you pause the video and do that now? So finally, for this first table, how many toys have no pink on them? That's quite a difficult one for you to have spotted, so I wonder how many of you spotted that. There were 6 toys with no pink. So Rudolph had a bit of pink on one of his hooves, and the sausage had a pink bow. All the others had no pink, so that's 6 toys without any pink. So that's 6 out of 8 toys have no pink. So simplifying that fraction, what's the largest number that goes into 6 and 8? Being 2. Divide the top and bottom by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So 3/4 of the toys have no pink, so that's 1/4 times 3. So to get the percentage, multiply 25% by 3. 25 times 3 is 75. And then to get the decimal, as we did before, divide by 100, gives you 0.75. So there's a lot in this table, so you might like to go back and watch those calculations again. Perhaps you need to pause the video and practice simplifying fractions, or practice dividing by 100, or practice looking for factors of two numbers, for example 4 and 8, 2 and 8, and 6 and 8. It's also worth knowing these conversions for a half, a quarter and 3/4, even without knowing the calculations, so I suggest you learn these. Now I'm going to show you another way to change fractions to decimals and percentages. It's good to have different ways, and also you can see the awe and wonder of how different maths methods come to the same result. So we had 4 animals, which was a half. Now here I want you to change your fraction to either tenths, hundredths or thousandths. To do this, look at the number in the denominator, that's at the bottom of your fraction, and ask yourself, does 2 go into 10? Yes, it does, 5 times. So multiply it by 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Multiply the top by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. So that's 5 tenths. And I'm sure most of you know that your first column after the decimal point is the tenths column. So 5 tenths, you're going to put a 5 in the tenths column to give you 0.5 as you had before. Now for the percentage. Now I know you know a half is 50%, but also spot that 0.5 times 100 is 50, and that's your 50%. So remembering there were 2 ducks, that was 1/4 of Bertie's toys are ducks. Now we want to convert a quarter to a tenth, a hundredths or thousandths. So you need to ask yourself, does 4 go into 10? No. Does 4 go into 100? Try doing a bus stop and you'll see that yes, it does. 25 times. So multiply the 4 by 25 and the 1 by 25. One quarter is the same as 25 100ths. So write this in your columns, starting with the hundredths, 5, tenths 2, and then you've got 0.25 for your decimal as before. Convert to a percentage by multiplying by 100. 0.25 times 100 is 25%. How many toys weren't pink? That was 6, being 3/4. Now pause the video here and see if you can convert this to a decimal in a similar way to the way you did a quarter above. So 4 goes into 100 25 times. So multiply 4 by 25 and 3 by 25. 3 25s are 75. 4 25s being 100, so you've got 75 100ths. Putting that in the columns gives you 0.75 as before. multiplying by 100 to give you the percentage, give you 75%. Well done sticking with it this far. So now you can see the awe and wonder. This table gives you the same results as before, a half being 0.5, 50%, a quarter being 0.25, 25%, and 3/4, 0.75, 75%. And here's the other table. So back to the magic, we've got one more tricky fraction to do. How many of Bertie's toys were only red? Just one being the red dumbbell, so that's one toy out of 8. So in a similar way as we did before, ask yourself, does 8 go into 10? Well, not exactly, no. Does 8 go into 100 exactly? No. 1,000? Yes, it does. Now I happen to know that and you'll get to know that, but just to check, do your bus stop. 1,000 in the bus stop, dividing by 8 outside, 8 into 1 doesn't go, carry the 1, 8 into 10 is 1, carry 2, 8 into 20 is twice, carry 4, 8 into 40 is 5. So 8 goes into 1,000 125 times. Here's another opportunity where you might want to pause the video and practice division using a bus stop. So multiply the bottom of your fraction, 8, by 125 and the top by 125. 1 times 125 is 125. 8 times 125 is 1,000. So that's 125 1,000ths. And putting that into your columns, starting with the thousandth this time, 5, then the 2, then the 1, gives you 1/8 is 0.125 as a decimal. And for the percentage, multiply by 100. 0.125 times 100 is 12.5%. Here are 3 worksheets for you to try. The first one is a green level. It's already in tenths, so that's a nice gentle start. Then the orange level is fifths, so convert to tenths in the way that we did earlier. Finally, the red task is much trickier. You'll need to use a bus stop and develop a new method. Good luck!